Good morning. We are so glad to have you joining us for another episode of Writers Chat. My name is Johnny Alexander. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Melissa Stroh and Brandy Bro, and two very special guests who Melissa is going to introduce for us.
Good morning, everybody. We're excited to have you with us today and our special guest. Um, I first, became acquainted with Paula and Myja and what they were doing a couple of years ago. I think it was when you first got started. They reached out to me by email and were telling me about a new event they were starting, a family-friendly book event called Literature Lattes South Dakota Book Event. And I was excited to hear about something like that. So close, I mean, close, relatively speaking, it's close to us out here in the Wyoming, South Dakota areas. And so I was like, oh, I would love to do that, but I didn't get a chance to that year. And I was like, keep me in mind. And then the following year, when they reached out again, I'm like, yes, I want to be a part of this group. And so I'm excited to introduce you to them today and let them share about this special event that they've put together. First, I'll give you a little bit of information on both of them. Paula Miller writes faith-based historical romance. She's a member of ACFW, Western Writers of America, and Faith, Hope, and Love Christian Writers. When she's not writing, she's a homeschooling mom and volunteer. She and her husband enjoy time with their six children, three daughters-in-law, and two grandchildren. And Myja fell in love with literature as a young child while earning a bachelor's degree in English. She also served as president of the SDSU English Club and worked for the South Dakota Humanities Council for two book festivals. When she's not writing, she enjoys knitting, reading, and taking long walks with her husband. And this dynamic mother and daughter-in-law duo has created Literature and Latte South Dakota Book Event, and we're so excited to hear about it and let you share about it today. So I'm just going to open it up to you, and whoever would like to take it away, go for it.
Well, I think I'll start off first and foremost, which thank you for the suggestion to clarify. Our book event, Literature and Lattes, is not the same thing as the Literature Latte singular company that runs the Scrivener program. Just wanted to let everyone know because we've gotten Facebook messages that are from very, very confused individuals, which is fair because the names are so similar. But I wanted to put that disclaimer out there in case anyone was confused. Um, so yeah, I'll just go ahead and introduce myself. Melissa already told you a bit about me. Um, Boy, where do I start? I don't want to give my whole life story necessarily, but um, yeah, I think, well, in terms of starting our book event, I've always been in love with books and literature. That's why I studied English in university. That's why I happened across the amazing opportunity of not only being a part of the English club at SDSU, but actually serving as president. Little did I know that my experience running that club and organizing events and doing things like that would greatly impact my starting a business and starting a book event of my own. So many of the skills, leadership, public speaking, organization skills have really helped me in setting up book events. And then when I worked at the South Dakota Humanities Council, I was sort of a seasonal intern helping set up the Festival of Books. And I was head over heels in love. It was the most amazing job I'd ever had. It was like my dream job. I loved it. I loved being immersed in the world of literature and book lovers. And one of the programs that the Humanities Council does is that they pick a book. It's like the one book for children in South Dakota. And last year, I think, was The Tale of Despero. And what they do is they ensure that every third grader throughout the entire state of South Dakota, that's private schools, public schools, tribal schools, even homeschool families, if they can get to them and make contact that way, they deliver books out to every third grader in the whole state to make sure that every child has a book that they can read, something that's their own. And just being involved in around these kinds of programs and helping out with these things really just cemented my love for helping organize these kinds of things. Like,
Mhm.
I loved working for them, I loved being involved. And then I thought, oh, we need more of this. Like, we don't have enough. Our state is so beautiful, and there are so many beautiful people with wonderful stories and just beautiful art. And why don't we have more events, specific events, lifting up these artists and especially the literary community? Like, we're a fairly like not super populated state, but um the people that we do have are very talented, and I love being able to help lift them up. Um, so that's not necessarily a ton about me though, but um, like Melissa said, I studied English at university. Um, yeah, right out of university, I got started. I was working at the Festival of Books, and I got really sick, and I wasn't able to go back working there. And then during that hiatus, it was
Mhm.
Paula and I got talking, like, oh, you know, we love the Festival of Books so much. Like, why don't we start our own book event? Like, how hard is it really? Well, that's $1 million
Yeah.
question, full of lots of giggles, but yeah, that's
Awesome. Thank you. How about you, Paula? What was your perspective on it?
Um, well, let's see here. Writing wise, I took a very long break from writing. I had been published as a children's author back in 2005. Took a very long break because my husband got sick with Lyme disease and just
Oh.
always said, I'll go back to writing when things slow down, maybe when I have grandkids, whatever. Well, 15 years go by and you think, wow, I really want to dig back into that. I really miss it. And at the time, I was kind of fluctuating between most of my kids were graduating and leaving. I still have some at home, but just kind of that, I don't know, midlife crisis. Like, what do I do now? Where do I focus myself? And Maya had suggested that I go to a festival of books with her. And I thought, well, I don't know, I suppose I could. And you get to a class, you start talking about writing again, and it just,
Yeah.
everything I wanted was like, oh my word, I need to do this again. So that was like my first introduction to a book event because even as an author in the early 2000s, I hadn't been to book events before. So Literature and Lattes, or excuse me, the Festival of Books was the first event that I had gone to. And then later in the year, we both together went to another one and just, I was just desperate to get in back into the writing world. And Maya was also introduced into writing at the same time. And so we decided to go to another festival or another event. But as we went to that one, we just realized that our focus is on bringing glory to God in our writing and whether or not we write Christian specifically or we just write things that are clean and wholesome. And but we weren't finding that exactly at the events that we were going to. Not that they weren't there, it just wasn't the overwhelming feel. And that's what we kind of were looking for. We just wanted to go someplace where if I wanted to bring my 13-year-old daughter at the time, we could do so without any hesitancy about what might be there. And so on our drive back from one of the events, we started talking and it was kind of I don't even remember who brought it up first because I think we were both thinking about it and hadn't talked to each other about it, but we had brought up the subject. It can't be that hard. Like I said, it can't be that hard to create a book event and really start bringing in the kind of authors and the kind of books that we would love to see somewhere. So that conversation just really started it all. It was, we could do something like that. Sioux Falls is a huge city. We both live near there. It's, Midwest. It's surrounded by states that, again, as Maya said, aren't hugely populated states, but because of that, there aren't a lot of book events in our area. And yeah, we just said, let's give it a go. And that's how it really started. So.
So what were like the first steps that you guys took when you began to set out to put it together?
Well, I wasn't sure if Maya wanted to jump in for that question or not. So I was pausing there for a second. Oh, let's see. First steps was, I think our first thought was, where should we have it? How big do we want it to be? The events that we had gone to were pretty large in our terms of trying to put something together. And so we just kind of said, well, if we can find a spot that we can afford, because financial was always a concern, how do we start one? What do we do to even get this off the floor? And so we contacted hotels, we contacted event centers. We ended up finding a very small golf course in Brandon, which is had a ballroom area per se, and it was within our, I think we could afford to do this. And if this is what it's going to cost us, how many people do we actually need to be there? What do we need to look at? And so it was really just like, I don't know, reverse engineering, like if we're going to afford this, how many people do we need to have there? What does our audience need to look like? How do we advertise and get that many people in? And so it was really just sitting down and going, okay, if we're going to do this, what has to happen in order for that to take place? And so we looked at the room size, we kind of measured out what we needed as far as tables and space, and then we just said, okay, we need to contact this many vendors, whether they're authors or we also include craft vendors who do
Mm.
something book or coffee related, because the idea of literature and lattes is because we love literature and we love coffee. We drink a lot of coffee. So it became what do we want? We want something that has a cozy atmosphere. We want it to have books and coffee and just feel very warm and almost like a coffee shop vibe, I guess. So yeah, we started looking for authors that we felt like some of our favorites, or local authors that looked like they wrote clean fiction. Excuse me, clean fiction. And we just started emailing and saying, hey, we're planning to do this book event. This is the date we're setting it for, and would you be interested? And I think probably the most work was just in finding authors. We went on Amazon, we went on Instagram, we went on Facebook. We honestly found writers chat and started going through all of your guests. Like, who was on there? Like anything that we could find. We found Clean Fiction Magazine and started looking at their authors. Like anything that would give us a list, or even people that had worked with other people who knew other people. And it was rabbit trails all over the place.
Wow.
Now, for those who might not have been to a book festival, can you describe what an average book festival entails? Like what's there? What happens?
I'm gonna give that to Maya.
Yeah, well, that part of it kind of depends on the theme of the event. But generally, a book festival or a book event is usually a gathering of authors. Sometimes there are presentations or classes or workshops to help other writers further their own skills and talents in writing. But for the most part, yeah, it kind of depends. You have the more writer conference style, where, like I just said, it was more classes and working on networking and developing skills. Or there's the more book fair type of book events, which is what we lean into, especially with our Saturday event, is a big book fair. And so each author has their own booth that they can set up and decorate to their heart's desire, and they can sell whatever books they would like. And they can sell and sign books. They can take photos with fans. So yeah, imagine, like, for anyone who hasn't been to a book event, imagine going to like a craft show or a craft fair and you see a bunch of vendors everywhere and everyone is selling something. It's the same exact thing except with authors and their books.
Mm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So, could you share a little bit about literature and lattes itself and how it's structured, like how you worked that out and what all it entails?
In terms of like the events and how we
Yeah,
plan things. Okay.
yeah, the events and hype.
Um, well, if Paula doesn't mind, I might just take that one, and I'm on a roll, I feel like. Um, yeah, we really, because we'd been to really only two book events, we wanted to kind of structure it off of what both off of what they did, because we kind of liked different aspects of each event. So like the Festival of Books, that one um, is much more like academic conference type, which is not necessarily what we were going for, but we did like the different classrooms and presentation topics and things like that. And this other book event that we went to had the same thing, where they actually had 2 days of like writers, classes, and workshops, and then one day of like a book fair event. And so we really liked what we were seeing. There was a lot of similarities between the two, and we thought, okay, well, this is some consistency that we're seeing with book events. And then we'd look online to see like what other book events in other states, like what are they doing? What are people looking for? And so we kind of looked at their schedules and how they outlined how they were doing things. And we were seeing, again, more consistencies, like with classes and book fairs, classes and book fairs, classes and book fairs. So we kept seeing that. We're like, okay, we like this ourselves. We liked going to these. This seems to be a consistent theme and what everyone else is looking for. Why don't we try that? And so we structured it to be a 2 day event where Friday is our focus on writing workshops. We try to pack the day as full of good information as possible. Um, and we really do that on a volunteer basis. If people want to sign up to teach a workshop or do some sort of presentation, they can, and they will email us their idea, what the title of it is, and kind of what they're looking to do. And in the last 2 years that we've done it, which is we've only done it 2 years, but we've had so many good suggestions and so many good topics that we had a plethora of wonderful classes and really talented teachers to choose from. So we were really blessed in that. So we try to pack the day with as many as we can, within reason, giving people a break. And we also really liked the meet and greet party. For the Festival of Books, they have a special evening, like before the festivities really kick off, like kind of in the middle of the week, they have a big meet and greet event. And we went to that one year. That was really fun. Got to meet some really interesting people. And I thought, oh, I really love this. Just being immersed. You walk in, you don't really know anyone. You just walk in, but everyone is united by a common theme, a common desire, a common skill. And we say, oh, you could go up and talk to pretty much anyone and you could have a conversation with them because there's that common ground that's already established. And so I thought, oh, that'd be great in terms of like authors networking with each other and for us as writers ourselves to connect with other more experienced writers. And also just I love dressing up, whether it's fancy or even more like cosplay type things. That is so much fun to me. Like I never grew out of dressing up. So I thought that would be a fun element to add of like, oh, let's have an excuse to dress up. I'm not gonna lie, that was kind of my main push. Was I wanted an excuse to dress up. So, and so that was our Friday evening. It was a lot of really focusing on authors connecting with each other. And then Saturday is our big book fair. That's our huge shebang. That's when we wanted everyone to have their booth and decorate it the way they want and just be able to sell and sign books and to meet established fans, meet new readers. Um, and again, a chance for us to shop as well because I think that's a big part of why we wanted to start a book event. There was multiple factors, but a big thing for both Paula and I is that we wanted another event to go to. We wanted to find books too and meet authors and have books signed. So that was a big push for us. And so Literature Lattes is just as much for us as it is for anyone else, to be totally honest. Like we enjoy it just as much as our audience because and not in a selfish way, but we wanted it for us too. So, because we're avid readers.
Did you then okay, let me rephrase the question. When you first started out, it was just the two of you and you decided you were going to do this. So did you bring other people on board even that first year to help organize it? Or, did volunteers start coming out of the woodwork after that first year to say, hey, I want to help with this for next year? So is it still just the two of you, or do you have like a committee now to help organize this event?
Um, no, it's just Paula and I. It's just the two of us.
Oh
Which
no.
you can share your thoughts on that more too,
Or do
Paula,
you
but
like it that way? You want that control. Yeah.
We had talked about we aren't a nonprofit because a friend of ours who had worked with nonprofits before had talked about how if you have a board of people, well, not only is there a whole lot of tax hoops and jumps and
Sure, of
things
course.
that we just weren't really familiar with. She also talked about the fact that as a nonprofit, even if you're the organizer and the creator of it, it can at some point be voted out of your hands. And because we wanted it to stay clean fiction and we wanted the focus of it to be family friendly, we were a little bit concerned with that. Not that we ever anticipate something happening, but the idea of creating it and having it go for several years and then suddenly, for
Mm.
whatever reason, being taken out of the vision we had for it was not where we wanted to go. So right now it's not a nonprofit. And so when we started, we just let's make it small. We can handle this. And as Maya has said before, how hard this can this possibly be? And that first year we realized it was a little more than
Mm.
than maybe the two of us. We were providing the food. I mean, we did everything.
Wow.
So, and we had I think 29 vendors altogether because we also had a few what we call craft vendors,
Mhm.
and their items had to be book or coffee related because of,
Mhm.
it being literature and lattes. But we did allow some craft vendors to come in, which I think opened up the audience a little bit to, let's say the wife loves to read, but the husband maybe isn't, or you have a family member who says, well, I see books that I like, but here's some book bags and here's some
Mhm.
stands and here's coffee cups and other things that are still going to draw in an audience, but still themed the same way. Um, so yeah, the first year, my one of several of my kids ended up jumping in and helping. Our husbands ended up jumping in and helping at the last minute. And then this year we actually decided, okay, so let me back up a little bit. We also during the book fair have a nonprofit that we support. So we have been looking around the Sioux Falls area, statewide, and just looking for someone that we can help support with a silent auction. So on one side of the room during the book fair, we have like, I don't know, 3, 4 tables set up, and we have silent auction gift baskets. So people can bid on each basket, and then at the end of the book fair day, if they're the highest bidder, they get to take the basket
Sure.
home. And it was just a way for us to give back to the community. We really liked the idea. So the first year we worked with one nonprofit. And the second year we worked with a nonprofit called Teen Pact, which helps teens. It's like a leadership school for teens. They go to the Capitol. It's Christian related. And so when we decided to use them as a nonprofit and to support them, we thought, well, maybe we could get some of the kids from Teen Pact to help be volunteers for the day because that would give them a chance to talk about Teen Pact and what it was, but also give us a few more hands to help out.
Yes.
And so this year, I think we had like, I want to say 10 volunteers that came in and they were fabulous. They went around to each author's table. They each had a section of authors to ask, do you need food? Do you need a drink? Do you need a bathroom break? Do you need anybody to watch your table while you run anything, whatever they needed? And because we had a food truck in the venue, they allowed us to bring in a food truck. It was nice for those who wanted to just walk over to the food truck, but some people didn't want to leave their table. And so the volunteers were able to say, hey, give me your order and I will go get it for you. And so we felt that that was really helpful to have just a few more hands to walk around checking on everyone and making sure the authors and the vendors were being helped. And it also just helped Teen Pact be able to share more about what they were. And it was a really good fit. So I don't know
I
what
love
next year will
that.
bring.
Yeah, that's so wonderful. It makes the authors feel special too and valued. And then, and then like you said, the teenagers are learning from that as well. And that's great. We did have a question about, and it is about the finances, like how much you charge people for setting up. And if you don't want to, give in specifics, that's fine. I can understand that. Um, but and then do you charge people to attend or not? So I'm just in general, how do you structure the financial piece of it?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, our event is free to attend. We don't charge admission for the workshops. We don't charge for tickets or anything. The only reason we have people register for a spot is to make sure that we have enough spaces for people to
Mhm,
sit, so enough chairs.
mhm,
But no, our events are free to attend except for the meet and greet because that one is more expensive because we typically have it catered,
mhm.
that sort of thing. So that helps cover the cost there. But the initial funding for literature and lattes and really getting everything going without divulging too much because we don't necessarily
Sure,
want to talk about all
of
the
course.
nitty gritty, but the initial funding came from Paul and I's personal finances.
Hmm. Yeah, just to get
So
a
we
little on the
have
ground.
personally
Yeah.
funded, right? Because otherwise we could have thought, oh, do we do some sort of Kickstarter? Do we ask people to sponsor? But when it's a new idea, a new venture like that, people aren't very willing to financially commit, which is understandable because you
Yes,
don't know how it's gonna go. So we
exactly.
thought, well, let's both of us initially invest a certain dollar amount and let's see what we can do with that. So
But now the people that are setting up booths, I mean, you do charge something for that, correct? Or no?
yes.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
would to cover the cost of the building and the facility and
Mhm.
all of that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm on the board of a Christian Writers Conference, the Mid-South Christian Writers Conference, and I know how difficult this can be. And I am just, I mean, I'm amazed and astounded in a very good way that the Writers Conference piece of this is free because, yeah, because I know how all that works, right? It's that's great that you're able to do that as part of this whole weekend is to have that piece of it for writers in that area to go to and to talk and to learn under authors without having to pay for anything except of course transportation, maybe lodging. So kudos to you for that. That's big. That's very big.
I have a kind of a side question on that. My brain is wondering because for those that are thinking about maybe wanting to do something that we're doing, how do you handle that side of accepting money and you're paying out of your pocket? How do you handle that with taxes?
Well, I'll
I
let
mean, I don't
Paula
know if you
handle
want to
this
share that
question.
or you just want to say get an accountant, which would be a great answer, and that
Yes,
would be
talk
fine.
to an
I'm
accountant.
just kind of wondering because my brain goes, things like that trip me up.
They
So
do.
they probably trip up other people too. I'm sure they're kind of wondering, what do you do with that?
Sure.
I'll answer that because Maya and I have the wonderful relationship where I do book work and she does social media. And so we're both very
Love
happy.
it. Love it.
So I have ran smaller businesses in the past, some LLCs. And so the part of getting an LLC, contacting the state, getting our name and everything, that was not hard for me because I'd done that before. Same with the website, I created websites, so I knew how to do. And right now I'm using a very, very simple website. It's MailerLite.
Mhm.
So it was very much yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but not as much as what some other websites are, and they have really good customer support. So we created the website, we started, the LLC and everything for state purposes.
Okay, so you did actually file
You've got a
as a business
business.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Yep.
we
Okay,
we
that's smart.
filed a
That,
business.
So
yep.
Brandy's going,
Well, no, because I mean, a lot of people sit there and they'll think of things in terms
Yeah.
of like offering a ministry, but then they don't think about the tax portion of it and what do they do if they have any money coming in. You kind of have to think about that. So then it puts things in a different light. And yeah, so you kind of going a business route is smart and keeps you out of
It
trouble,
is.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And personally, it's just I love spreadsheets. Maya will tease me about it, but that's okay because
So, right. I
I
like writing
one way.
synopses. So,
I I I need to be organized, and so I need
yeah.
spreadsheets. And so, it's funny because we'll talk about, well, let's get this information. I'll tell her it's on the spreadsheet. She's probably really tired of hearing me say that, but our whole life is on the spreadsheet basically for literature lattes because it just helps us keep it organized and who we've contacted, when we contacted them, what their response was,
Wow.
with vendors, with sponsors, with everything, advertising.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, so for my accountant or not my tax person, I just say this is another business and I give her all my information and so she does that. And so yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's
Thank
great,
you for being
Paula.
willing to answer that.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and clarifying too that yeah, you're not a nonprofit, but you are an LLC. And for those of you listening to the recording or who are here or who might not know what an LLC is, because it is a very businessy thing, and sometimes writers don't want to be concerned about businessy things. But is it limited liability? Is that what the LL
Limited
stands
liability
for?
company. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone, well, Paula, I'll ask you because can you just give us a brief definition of what an LLC is and why it's a smart thing to have one in situations like even authors. I know my daughter Bethany Jett, she's an author and she's has an LLC.
I mean,
So
you could go sole proprietorship, but limited,
yeah, but
liability
it does
company,
give you some more
the
protection.
option.
So can you just, I mean, I know this is a little bit off topic, but do you mind just sharing a little bit?
Okay. And honestly, I don't know a lot. I do know that there's sole proprietorship. I know there's LLC, there's corporations, and everything that I had researched on for my anything else I had done, just under my author name, I have an LLC.
Mhm.
Um, and so when I had created that, it was very much from what I had researched, just it gives you protection as a business. And if anything were to, it's not connected to your personal finances, which was
Right.
the thing for me was I don't want it to be connected. I don't want anything to overlap there. And so when I contacted the state, I explained this is what we want to do. What is the best format for us? And they agreed LLC was the best way to go. For my business, my own for authoring, I have a sole proprietorship LLC, but
Mhm.
I and I, because we're together, it's a LLC with two of us. So
Okay. Yeah, I think the big thing is that if you would get sued, it protects your personal finances from being taken from you or being part of that lawsuit. So,
yeah.
all right. Are there other questions or anything else you want to tell us?
And Leslie just popped another one up, I
Okay.
think. Besides social media, how do you get the word out to people initially to market the event? Do you do newspapers, ads, etc.?
Yeah, we've mainly worked off of social media because that is social media is real hit or miss, and I think we all kind of understand that to a degree. Like, you can either have a wildfire or you can fizzle out, and
Yeah.
it's very unpredictable. But social media is the main way that we've been getting our name out there. We have an Instagram and a Facebook page. I manage those for our event. As soon as we solidify the dates, we start a Facebook event page. And that Facebook events are so nice because that is something that the Facebook algorithm will put out to people that it knows that are interested and within a certain radius of the event, like we had it in Brandon. And if someone is interested in events, it just events in general, doesn't even specifically have to be book events. Um, in like a 50-mile radius of Brandon, South Dakota. Facebook will put it out to those people automatically. And so that's how it differs from ads. And it's really nice because you don't have to pay for it.
Yes.
Facebook just does it automatically. It just starts pushing it out to the right people. That is so, so helpful. I feel like that is one of the things that really helped get our name out there on Facebook. The first year, obviously, it's a lot harder to get up and going, but we did everything we could think of. We did social media. We did old fashioned, I guess. I don't think it's old fashioned, but I mean, maybe some people do compared to social media, flyers and postcards.
Mm-hmm.
And I went all over Brookings and I went to every store that I could and I hung up flyers. And mom went, well, Paula, sorry, I call her mom, but for the sake of the interview, I thought, oh, Paula would be better because it's less confusing. But she went around to all over Sioux Falls, Harrisburg, Canton, I think at one point, like everywhere and anywhere that we could realistically, also within our own personal limits of time and such. We hung up flyers, put out postcards. We asked people that we knew, hey, could you share this on social media? If you know anyone that wants to go to anything like this or might be interested, could you mention it? Could you hand out flyers or postcards? Mention it at your church. Could you do something like that? So we actually asked people to spread word of mouth. Um, we did, I think in our first year, we might have been reaching out to different media companies in the East River region. I don't really remember, but for 2025, we did. I went through and emailed every newspaper in the state just saying, hey, I've got a story idea if you want to write about it. If you don't, that's fine. But I thought,
Yeah.
why not? What's it gonna hurt? I even reached out to the newspapers in the kind of general region where I grew up, which was Northern Iowa. I reached out to all my childhood newspapers that I could think of like, hey, I'm originally from this area. I'm doing this thing. Do you want to write a piece on it? And some people responded. Um, Most didn't, which,
That's typical. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that was mainly how we got the word out was social media, physical flyers, and word of mouth.
But I don't want you to forget because it doesn't feel like advertising, but we used it for advertising. We had a booth at the homeschool conference for the state.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was one of the things we did besides your
Yes. Yes.
typical advertising.
Yeah.
We had a booth set up there. We did do a booth at Festival of Books one year. It must have been last year. And and this year when we started, we didn't, but this year we did go to magazines and put in ads
Mm,
around Sioux Falls. In the beginning, we didn't because they just weren't in our budget. But this
sure.
year we did try that to see how much would that help. And, so, and next year we'll probably expand in other ways. We just, every year we just try to think of new ways to get the word out. And so.
Are you trying to do it like same weekend of the same month every year now, or is it just sort of still a little bit flexible?
We would love to have it the same weekend of every year. We picked the first weekend in the fall in
Mm,
October, and then when we decided to go to the next year, we wanted to get a bigger venue because we felt we could grow enough, and so we picked a venue in Sioux Falls that almost tripled our size. But because they're such a big venue, they had one weekend left. But when we contacted them, and so we just said, okay, that's the weekend we're going to do it. And we've contacted them enough now this year that we are back in October again, which is where we'd like
okay.
to keep it.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Well, we do have some more questions, but Megan has one and she's already on video. So, Megan, if you want to unmute and ask your question, you can do that. And if anyone else wants to just come on and ask questions or make comments, you're welcome to do that. We're opening it up now. So just pop in if you want to pop in. Megan, go ahead.
Hello, this is really great. I like all of the info dump that you're giving us. Now, I know you said this was clean and inspirational. Is it for fiction and nonfiction or just fiction?
Yes, fiction and nonfiction.
And children's too, I'm assuming as well.
Mhm. All genres,
Yeah.
pretty much all genres. We have some stipulations
Because
within our boundaries.
it's clean genres.
Yes, yep.
Oh, goodness. Anybody else?
I saw a question in the chat from, I think it was
Yeah,
Leslie.
Leslie is not able to come on camera, so yeah.
Okay.
Do you
Yeah,
invite
do we, and
bookstores? And I guess
okay.
invite bookstores and secular authors to have booth tables, or do you keep it strictly for Christian vendors and authors?
Yeah, like what if there's
Yeah, we
a
invite,
general market author that writes clean? Do you allow them to come in to your event, or do you really want them to be of a Christian faith?
uh, we talked about that at the beginning. We weren't quite sure exactly how we wanted to set that up because we are Christians ourselves, and our definition of clean falls within the guidelines of Scripture. So yes, we do allow bookstores and authors that are not specifically Christian but are clean, or at least their content is clean. Maybe they don't market themselves as clean, but we know their content is clean. Yes, we allow because we want it to be a clean fiction. Um, we say clean fiction event, but we welcome nonfiction too. So, but yes, if
And I think we lost Maya
Yeah, I
for a
think
moment
mine
there.
froze, but
Yeah.
I'll add on to
Yeah, how
that.
do you, I was going to just tag on to that. How do you screen the authors? Like if you don't know them personally, do you ask, to preview their work before you give them a table or a booth just so that you are making sure you're keeping it to that? Because that would be important for me as well.
Yes, and that exactly that was important to us as well. And so what we have done is we've created a Google form. So when you go onto our website, there's a Google form to fill out, and it's basically like an application. It's not a you can just sign up and pay for a booth and be done with it. It's an application form, and we ask for their social medias, for their website. And so we do a little bit of homework for each author, finding out what do they write, reviews, different things that and if we feel like we don't see anything that's a red flag to us to the point where we would say they couldn't come, then we email them back and say, thank you so much for applying and we would love to have you. Here's how you finish the rest of the process. But yeah, we do very much vet everyone that comes as much as we possibly can. And it's what, and I guess clean fiction is going to be a different definition for everyone. Ours is basically absolutely closed door, not taking the name of God in vain, no horror, nothing explicitly violent. And you always have, like, we've had authors contact us and say, okay, in my book, it's set in the 1800s. The female character was a prostitute at one point, and this is not the lifestyle she wants, blah, blah, she moves on. We've had an author contact us to say that his book talked about child trafficking, and it was, but it didn't go into the detail. So as long as it's not explicit, we would, for the general part, allow it because we want people to be able to bring their families, for kids to walk up to a table, open a book, and not be educated in a way a parent would not want them to be.
Mhm.
That is our main goal. We know that there's really tough topics, so we aren't saying that everything has to be all roses, but we don't want anything explicit, especially, and we want, I guess, the end story not to be gratifying or glorifying violence or glorifying anything like that. So.
And how, since you have a vetting process, how far in advance do you require applications? Like, is there a cutoff time so that or is it a set months in advance that they have to apply so that you have time to vet them and things
Not
like
really. We have the application for 2026 already on our website. So we are taking applications and then we pretty much do it until all the booth space get filled. So we're not specifically advertising right now. Right now, it's either vendors and authors who have been with us in the past 2 years or word of mouth. They've said, hey, I saw this last year and I wasn't able to come, so I'm applying now. And so right now we have applications, at least half of them are from authors we've never even heard of before, who have either heard about us or a friend was a vendor last year and things like that. But we open it up pretty much as soon as the last one's over, we give ourselves a little bit of a break, but then we get the form up and ready so people can apply. And we just let them know, hey, it might take us a little bit to get back to you. We see your application. Maybe give us a month to wind down last year's event. And then we just kind of let them trickle in. And if we feel like we're getting close to our deadline and we need more tables filled, we will email authors. And our first year, we just emailed and emailed and emailed. So.
That's great. That's great. Any other questions from anybody? Sorry if you heard that loud noise.
This is kind of like an event question because since it is you do 3-day event, do you also offer food vendors a spot so that it makes it easier for the attendees as well as the ones that are renting spaces to not have to go out and fight traffic and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, it's a 2-day event, and so our first day is all writing workshops. And the first year, we just left an hour for lunch, and because we were in a smaller town, everyone could either go out and find food or come back. We also had food trucks in the parking lot, so we want not for the writing workshop day, but for the book fair. The writing workshop day, we kept it a little bit looser. Our first year, because again, we didn't really have a strict plan. It was just kind of, let's see how this goes. This last year, we did the writing day in a hotel. And so the hotel had a restaurant, and people could also leave if they wanted to. Some of them went back up to their room to eat, but they had a restaurant there. So we felt that that kind of covered that day. The day of the book fair, excuse me, we had food trucks. So the first event was done in a golf course ballroom. And so the food trucks were parked outside. And that's when we kind of realized we need more volunteers because once one of the volunteers, one of my kids said, hey, can I get you some coffee? It was everyone wanted that. And that was wonderful and it was great. But the running back and forth in and out of the building was like, that's not going to work really great next year. So when we contacted Denny Sanford, we talked to them and they said, well, you can either have food with us and we'll do concession, or you can bring in a food truck. Because we're literature and lattes, we wanted to definitely have coffee there. That was one of our, cozy feeling things. And so we decided to get a food truck that was able to offer coffee and food. They parked right inside the room. They had great big, huge doors, and they were able to pull the truck right in the room. So authors could go get their food for lunch, and volunteers could go get it for them if they needed. So we'll probably do something very similar, possibly 2 food trucks, just because of the lines. And also, food trucks have a specific type of food usually that they do, and I think we'd like to get a little more variety next year, but we haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Christine.
How do you feel about whimsical faith-based poetry?
I love it.
I love that. Yeah. I don't know what it's about, but it sounds great.
That's my daughter's book, House on the Hill. And if we do craft shows here in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh area, because my daughters make stuff. But we tried selling her book at a craft show and people were interested, but not really engaged because they were more there for craft stuff.
Yeah.
You said her book's name was House on the Hill?
Yeah, it's on Amazon, the House on the Hill.
I think I've heard of that actually.
Oh my goodness.
There you go.
Okay.
Now I gotta look this up. Like, I'm kidding.
Her name's Sarah Emick, and I can type it in the chat. I can send a link in the chat.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Can do that. All right. Any other questions? Melissa, you were able to go this past year or just recently, very recently as a vendor. Do you want to just chime in a little bit on your experience and how it was and getting to meet people and so forth?
I think it was great. In fact, I was kind of bemoaning that I was only able to make it for the author meet and greet the night before and then the book festival the day of and not be able to get in for the full 2 days. I definitely would recommend the full 2 days for authors who are attending because then it gives you so much more time to network with other authors and meet everybody and make connections. And that was one of the fun parts for me was to connect with everybody and just to get the experience because I'd never been to a book festival before as an author. It was my very first book festival. So it was a very big learning experience for me. And I definitely have to cheer on their team of volunteers. They made me as an author feel very spoiled. I loved it. And there were a bunch of dynamic young people, teens and young adults. And yeah, it was fun chatting with them. I mean, they would just walk around and chat up the authors, see if they needed anything. They would even volunteer to take pictures for the authors with their fans or their tables or whatever. And so it was really cool, that aspect of it. I loved it. And yeah, just to be there with so many other authors and to see, even how they set their tables up, how they engage with readers coming by and yeah, just that camaraderie, that connection. I loved that. So yeah, I would recommend for sure attending both days. I think, Paula mentioned that she has the website set up on MailerLite. I'm assuming that's how the newsletters and emails came out to everybody too. So that's kind of another aspect of it that I thought was very helpful as a vendor that it's kind of like, how you would set things up for like a book launch almost, where you're connecting with all of their people are your vendors and your authors that are showing, and they sent regular correspondences as we're counting down to the event itself and helping engage us and organize us and telling us where we needed to go, what we needed to have ready, and always being very helpful. Yeah, I felt very informed and engaged the whole time and excited about the event. So yeah, that's my take from it. I definitely would like to come again. And yeah.
We'd love to have you again.
Yeah, it sounds like a fun time. And just, as we're getting close to closing, is there like one major thing you learned or one major thing like, oh, we wish we had known that before we started out doing all of this, but now we know for next time, like a big, big lesson and it could, or something that was just really surprising so maybe really a positive thing that just sort of come out of your experiences doing this now for 2 years and planning the third. So just a little life thing.
Oh man. There are a lot of things that kind of took us by surprise and trying to um I think for me I think for me one of the biggest takeaways um less in terms of planning because there was lots of things that shocked me. Like so many
Mm.
details I didn't know were so imperative. Which is okay. But I think the biggest thing for me was hearing from attendees how much they had needed and wanted an event like this in the
Oh,
area.
nice.
And not just a book event, but something clean fiction. I
Mhm.
just this year at our 2025 event, I had multiple people come up to me and thank me for setting up the event and saying how grateful they were to have an event where they could let their kids go and not worry about what table they were going to stop at or who they were going to talk to or what they were going to find there. Um, and hearing from the authors how much they appreciated, especially more of the regional authors, being grateful of having something more close to home to attend. And that makes all the work worthwhile to me. Like we go through months and months of work. Like it is a
Yeah.
full-time job.
Yes.
And at times it can be really exhausting and really tiring, which, comes with any big project that you're doing.
Sure.
But it makes it all so worth it. And it makes me so, so happy and so grateful that God put me on this path and had me working with Paula, who is my perfect counterpart in terms of business and everything. We balance each other out so well. She's a phenomenal business partner to have. Um, and yeah, I think for me it's just realizing how impactful the event is for attendees and authors, and realizing how how important it is and how needed it is, and especially with everything
Yeah.
that's happening in our world. And even in the last month, like we made a social media post about it recently, and I don't want to get political necessarily, but it's not something anyone can avoid at this point of what's happened in the news in the last like 4 weeks, and just just realizing how important it is and important what we're doing, and that we're always discussing our why and why we're doing what we're doing, and that we're always praying through it. We pray through every decision, and we make sure that we're within the guidelines of the Bible when we make our decisions in terms of our event, because even though we're not specifically a Christian event, we are Christians, and we are responsible for how we operate within this world. And um, that's all just been hitting me, all these realizations, like heavy and happy and joyful and sobering, all the things is just really made a big impact on me personally, which I know is a lot, but it's been a lot for me. So I think that's it for me, is just realizing how much everyone wants it and needs it.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Paula, do you have any last words? Anything you want to add?
I think well, number one, I definitely agree with Myja. I think when we started this, it was let's see how it goes. And when we realized how many other people were on that same vein of thought as we were, like, we need something like this. This is, you know, we just kind of felt like, wow, this isn't just us. This isn't just us thinking. We just really want something where we can go to, and our families can go to. And as Myja said, nobody has to worry about what they pick up. And so I think every year it kind of hits home a little harder. Like, this isn't just, I mean, obviously we want to read books, we want to meet authors, we want to connect, we want the whole thing personally, but it's become, reaching out to the community, and it's become sharing that and letting people realize that you can have book events and they can have a certain focus, and that's okay, and it's needed and it's wanted. And yeah, we just have had such good feedback. It just gives us more energy for the next year.
The market is there. The audience is there.
It is.
That's good to know. That's very, very good to know. All right. Well, thank
Paula,
you both. Oh,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
No,
Just
go
one
ahead.
more question.
Sure.
Paula, you said you started going to the festivals or the events for homeschool moms and parents. Do you offer, I guess, a booth or a space for um, homeschool curriculum companies?
We had
Do
talked
they?
about that. We had talked about, like, this year we had a new startup publishing company that we had a booth. We had lined up a gal who was an editor who was going to have a booth, and then she wasn't able to come after all. So we're opening it up besides just authors and craft vendors. Um, the curriculum, I'm not sure. We've talked about that, but as it sits right now, we're just trying to focus on books and coffee,
Okay.
publishing, that type of thing. We haven't delved into too much beyond that, but it's not something we wouldn't, have a discussion about in the future. It's not something that we wouldn't consider for sure. But just right now, I think we've focused on authors um, and craft vendors, but
Okay.
it's always up for discussion. So,
Yeah, I just wondered because our church is planning to build a conference center. We just bought a hotel in December. Yeah, they're doing it a different way because our local government wouldn't allow us to build on our site. We needed more space, and the hotel closed, and it worked out. So
Wow.
they're going to be building a convention center where we'll be able to hold services and then also rent out for conventions and things like that. And I thought that this would be a great opportunity for our church to do it or have a space to do it, because they're also going to be starting a charter school next year.
Hmm.
So I was thinking of the homeschool moms and dads and and the curriculum and stuff too. It would be a way to pull everything together. And I don't know, it's something I'm definitely considering.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Well,
Yeah.
yay, Leslie.
I know
Yay.
it'd be a lot of work. I've done trade shows and
Yeah.
things like that with as a community organizer, so I know it's a lot of work, but
Yeah.
it really benefits the community. And like I said in the comments, we don't have a Christian bookstore here at all. Um, and we only have half price books in Barnes and Noble, and it's very hard to find, newer Christian books. You can find older ones that, are maybe series, or you can find the well-known authors in Barnes and Noble, but the other authors are kind of like left on the wayside. And there's a lot of local authors here. So
Yeah. All right.
yeah,
Well, thank you. Thanks for that.
thank you.
Brandy, I'm going to turn it to you real quick for next week.
Yeah, next week we are doing a Come Write With Us session. Everybody seems to enjoy those. And I will be pulling some great sentences out of public domain literature for us to use as prompts. I have found some real gems into some things, and I read it and I'm like, oh, this is a fantastic prompt. So we're going to be looking at fantastic sentences and using some for writing. And I will be sure to include something for both fiction and nonfiction because I know not everybody does fiction. That way, there's
That's
something for
true.
everybody. So
We're about half and half, I think.
yep, and I do want to add that on our YouTube channel, Writers Chat, I have added a playlist just for those Come Write With Us sessions that we've done. So if
Oh,
you just want
nice.
to come and practice your writing with some prompts, you can go to that particular playlist and play the individual sessions and be able to write with us.
Well, fun. That was smart. That was a great thing to do then, just to be able to not have to look through the whole list to find those. Oh, yeah, I'm glad you did that. Another thing then really quick too is I think it's in 2 weeks we're doing the classic book thing. So,
Yes.
okay, who wants to talk about that real quick?
Well, I'll mention that as well because
Okay.
um, so we have dubbed us personally, not anybody outside of us, October as Read a Classic Month, and that can include something as simple as Aesop fables or Grimm fairy tales or Hans Christian Andersen, which, if you are not aware, are just the Lord is throughout all of it. So there's a strange mix, but Christianity is definitely mixed in through a lot of this stuff. So if you do not have time to read a big classic like Ben-Hur,
Or Moby Dick.
or Moby Dick, yeah, because I surely don't. You can grab some of those classic fairy tales from Gutenberg online. They have a huge collection. And we're going to be looking specifically at endings.
Yes.
What of these classics make the story resonate with us or not? Because I have told you I read a lot of them fairy tales. It is a lot to go through all the Grimm fairy tales, takes a long time. Some of the endings just like boom, and others I'm like, well, that was dumb. So we're going to take a look at endings and lots of stuff out there. So it should be a fun time.
Yes. And everybody will be, we want you all on camera. So read a
Yep.
book, read a classic, pick up the last line, and we're just going to have a free-for-all discussion. So that's in
Yep.
2 weeks. So
That
a
also
lot of
helps avoid
interaction.
spoilers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
For
there'll be
recent things
spoilers.
you don't want to, yeah.
Yeah.
Recent
Yeah.
things you still want to
Hey,
read. Yeah.
if a book has been out for like 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 years,
It's in the
you
public
you don't know
domain.
the ending,
Yeah.
that's on you. Okay. We're not going to tell you what's a classic. You can decide what's a classic, what's not.
Yeah.
So,
Y- if it's
yeah,
on Gutenberg, consider it a classic.
yeah.
Literature, if
Um,
it's fiction or nonfiction, doesn't matter.
Jocelyn asks, is that the same as Black Beauty? Because that's Anne Sewell's book, and I actually just finished reading it last week. So there you go. Um, it was interesting. It was sad. Black Beauty is a sad story.
It is a sad
So
story.
now we're starting to go down rabbit trails. Okay. Paula, Myja, thank you so, so much for coming and sharing your experience about actually starting and establishing what appears to be something that's going to last into the future and for a long time. And that's wonderful to give this to your community and to the surrounding area. And again, we know from Melissa, that there's just not a lot out there in that area. So she's so excited to have you guys be doing this. So thanks too, because there may be people who watch this and say, hey, you know what, I can do that. And that would just be wonderful. So we invite everybody who's here to stay for the after party. If you're watching the replay, we invite you to join us any Tuesday morning, 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central. And as I like to say, just go around the globe to find your own time zone so you know when to join us. We invite you to join our Facebook Writers Chat members Facebook group and check out the Writers Chat Facebook page. And as Brandy mentioned, our YouTube channel, which is Writers Chat. So it's all, just look up Writers Chat, you will find us, and we'd love to have you join us. So until next week, everybody, bye bye and happy writing.